Happy Sunday to you, NIO fam. It's August 31st. It's Sunday, 2025 is the year. We're going to probably get a new monthly delivery record reported from NIO tomorrow. So that's why I want to do this video today. But I'm also going to talk about the full year numbers and share some things that I don't know if anyone is thinking about. Also, my thoughts on the reality of NIO having a chance or a shot at actually doubling their delivery numbers this year, because I did have a request, somebody wondering about that. So let's dig in and let's actually start right here. I've got this highlighted for a reason because, and I'll show you, I'll try to link all this together as we go through this because I've got a lot of tabs lined up. So this will be a longer than 8-minute video. I'll create chapters and timestamps to make it more convenient for the viewer. User deliveries of the Onvo L90 began on August 1st. The reason I've highlighted this is if we come over to August 29th was this post where the 10,000th Onvo L90 delivery was done. And so that means within August, there have already been 10,000 of these. Here's another point that I want to make and show, and that is the status or where we're at. We're going to come back to the Onvo numbers in just a minute, the L90 numbers rather. But these are the 3 full weeks in this month of August. And just from these 3 weeks, NIO at about 20,900, almost 21,000 on the insurance registration side of things. Now, the 10,000 Onvo L90s, I'm actually going to share this and point out where some of the numbers that I think are going to see NIO come in with a full monthly delivery, a new record of probably 32,000. That's my guess. I'm going to keep it simple and even with that number. The monthly record to this date is 31,138. But here's where I think we're going to get some of the numbers that will help NIO get to the new record. This data right here, this is the Onvo L90. And because they started August 1st, even though this was a carryover week right here, meaning there were some days in July and most of the days were in August, but I wasn't sure how many of these numbers would translate on the August side. But now that we know Onvo L90s only started with the deliveries on August 1st, all of these should represent Onvo L90 numbers. Now, the additional to get to that 10,000 number would have been another 1,053. I think we'll see probably a bigger number for the last full week than that, especially if we just looked at the trajectory. And the reality that NIO is doing probably 200 to 300 of these a day on average over the this first month. But then also we've got this Onvo L60 number, this 1,720 number that was a carryover. And I don't think all these numbers are going to come over into the August side of things, but I do think some of them will. So I think that also helps with the numbers, but we're not done. We're also going to talk about NIO and the expectation. Typically what we see from NIO is bigger numbers at the end of a month. So these are the 3 full weeks, even if we only get a 2,600 number from NIO. And of course, that's partly because the ES8 is not going to be delivered until September. More on that a little bit later. I've got something queued up to talk about there as well. But again, this is the carryover week from Onvo. And so this is the NIO number. Again, I don't know how many of these will come over into the August side of things. Same scenario with Firefly. But interestingly enough, also with Firefly, we're probably going to get, I would guess, at least an 800 number, and we might get a bigger number like even a 1,000 plus. And here's why. This is one of the things that that NIO seems to do very well with. Arthur Shen with the post here, and this was a special edition, right? When NIO does these, they seem to sell out really well. So let me just put an asterisk on that. We're going to come back to that concept here in a little bit. But this was another 30, or just this one edition, which in less than 2 days, basically sold 33 units. So if all of those come in for the month of August, and again, this is posted in August, kind of the later part of the month, then that's going to help with the numbers. So as we come back over, and I want to highlight this because I don't necessarily expect a 10,700 number, which would tie the best week that NIO has ever had. Although I won't be upset if we see something like that. I think all we need is a 9,000 number and we'll see a new delivery record. So I think we're well on pace for it. I also think that NIO and William Lee, I think they really want to come in with a new monthly delivery record. And that really will help align with things not just for the earnings that's going to be on September 2nd, Tuesday before the market opens, but also for the rest of the year with the ES8 deliveries starting. And now let's actually talk about that. And then we'll get to the full year and my thoughts on that and some of those numbers. So this is a post from William Lee talking about the volume of the all new ES8 in days is already equivalent to Onvo L90s now. Here's the catch. The ES8 is probably not going to be delivered until halfway or the later part, I think maybe even September 20th of September, which means I think it will be hard for NIO to come in with a huge number on the delivery side in September. However, if, for example, they come in with a 32,000 number in the month of August, and then they can get at least some deliveries of the ES8, maybe 5,000 or 6,000 of them in, then that would probably set them up for perhaps a 38,000 number in September. I really don't know. I want to keep tracking things week to week and not get too far ahead of ourselves. But because I was asked about the year kind of overview, I wanted to share my thoughts on that. Here's where things get a little interesting. And there are a couple of wild cards potentially out there. But NIO, the goal with the idea of them being able to double their sales or delivery volume for the year would mean they probably need about 440,000, and they are nowhere near that. They are through July at about 135,000. So if they come in with 32,000 in August, 38,000 in September, and even finish with a 50,000 number on average for the last 3 months of the year, that still only puts them at 355,000. Now, this is kind of an interesting concept that NIO has had some success with. So I want to share it. I'm going to jump back and forth on about 3 different things here, because this is an earlier, a March, it was right after earnings, actually. It was an interview where William Lee and Shin Lee Hong were talking about different things. And one of the things they talked about is entering 25 countries and regions. And so far it's going well. And then here he talks about, right down here, he talks about the change that they've made, that they're going to be entering global markets and looking for local partners. And then they'll operate locally using NIO's direct sales model, leveraging their existing resources, including service stores and service facilities. Now, this is obviously something NIO has been working on for months. And although they're not going to hype it or talk about it, this is now, I want to come back to this, because this is part of the concept here, is when NIO does these limited editions, they seem to do really well with them. And so what if NIO decides to do this through all of the local distributors? And I guess my next question is, how many of them are set up? And can they do numbers like this? The distributor also announced that there are 100 ET5 Touring first editions and 100 EL6 first editions. How many sales can NIO sneakily get through this avenue, through the local, and regional distributor channels? That I have no idea what those numbers could be, but the reality is they've done kind of well with that on the smaller scale. And if they can and have enough positioning to do that across a bunch of different markets, then we can come back to the NIO Newsroom and start digging into things like, how many different, because if we look back, they're not going to tell us everything they're doing, but we can see some of the numbers and look a little bit more in depth for those of us who actually want to dig in. I didn't do it. I knew I wouldn't have time to do it for this video. And my, I don't want to say concern, but my thought still is the NIO is so far away from doubling their sales numbers for the year. I absolutely hope they can shock me and I think most of the NIO global community and do it, but I don't know how they would, even with these different things playing out, unless they, again, have something really massive sort of already behind the scenes set up and aligned to come to fruition. I think also I want to be realistic and a little conservative from the standpoint of NIO it's not like they're coming out with low-tech Tesla with plastic parts. I mean, everything they put out is high quality, it's premium, it's luxury. And so I do think that I want to continue to track the data, but I want to be somewhat conservative and not have this expectation or even think that they need to surpass even a 400,000 number. I just wanted to see them continue to position to take more of that market especially within China, and recognizing that Onvo is doing very well. The ES8 sounds like it is also going to do very well. NIO, to date, the record is barely over 30,000. They've only hit 30,000 deliveries in a single month. So for me, being realistic and conservative in trusting that this continues to be a long-term play, I would rather, even if it means a slower ramp on the delivery side, if they can get to 50,000 in even 2 of the last 3 months of the year on the monthly delivery side of things, I will be personally happy with that. Now, internally, I hope they're not, because they did put bigger numbers out, and I hope that they will want to surpass that. And maybe they have something set up through which, like I said, with these local distributors, globally, maybe that is one of the plays. Maybe Onvo, they have more happening with the stores, and they have more volume and production capacity with the ES8, and that are going to translate and surprise us in the months ahead. But my thought is, it looks like probably 355,000 is doable, and that's without getting too high or too low in my mind. That's also not knowing what the local, regional, and global partners are going to be able to do with things like those potential special edition sales and such. So anyway, that's my thought, but I'm also curious to hear from other people. So drop it in the comments, and I still have more content to come back on, but I'll try and wait and hopefully get this thing up and out today. Then we'll get data from NIO on September 1st, including what hopefully will be a monthly delivery record. And then we'll go from there. September 2nd, Tuesday before the market opens, we'll have earnings. We'll have Asian markets open before that. So I don't know, a lot of, I think, fun data to track this week. So I'm going to enjoy nerding out. But anyway, thanks for those who stuck around to the end. I'll see y'all again very soon.